Hello, class. Hopefully, you've already looked through the Getting Started material before viewing this first lecture. If not, go back to the section entitled General in Moodle and watch the introduction video by clicking on the icon that says Click Here to get started. Today, we'll discuss what anthropology is, what ethnography is, what an ethnography is, and start thinking about potential sites that you'll be viewing for yourself and your homework assignments. So, what is anthropology? Anthropology's root word, anthropos, comes from the ancient Greek language meaning human beings, and logi, of course, means the study of. So, in essence, it's the study of human beings. In American anthropology, we use the four-field approach. This entails biological anthropology, archaeology, linguistic anthropology, and cultural anthropology. You might wonder if there are other disciplines that study human beings, such as psychology and sociology. What is it that sets anthropology apart? Well, anthropologists study humans in the past from long ago, like this picture of the 17,000-year-old cave art from Lascaux, France. But we also study human behavior in the present. We study humans as biological beings and as cultural beings. We take a look at what makes us similar to each other and what makes us different. We study humans as part of their natural environments and as part of the social environments we create for ourselves. We study humans as they exist in one particular place, in one particular time, and humans as dynamic and ever-changing, both biologically and culturally. We study the tangible, or the things humans make and use, like these Acheulean hand axes. But we also study the intangible, like symbols, ideas, or morals. We may be familiar with this particular symbol, but without us layering meaning into it and agreeing on what it stands for, it would have no purpose whatsoever. Anthropologists study humans in some of the most remote regions of the world. Take this image for an example. Are you familiar with it? This was an uncontacted group of people in South America who didn't want to be studied by anthropologists. And as anthropologists, we have an ethical duty to respect another group's wishes. While we might think of more exotic and remote locations as the arena for anthropological study, we also study human behavior in our very own backyards. So real quick, I'd like to recap. Anthropologists study the tangible, things people make and use. The intangible, like ideas, symbols, and morals. We study humans in remote places, and we study humans in our own figurative backyards. We study humans as biological beings and as cultural beings. We study humans in the past and present. Now then, what is ethnography? Ethnography comes from the Greek word ethnos, meaning folk or the people, and grapho, meaning to write. Essentially, it is the writing of people. In order to do this, we must observe people's behavior in their everyday settings, where they live, where they work, where they play, or relax. We then identify patterns of behavior, meaning what people do habitually. Then synthesize our observations into generalizable descriptions of the group being observed, and finally, communicate our findings to relevant audiences. Ethnography is the primary way anthropologists create the most widely recognized product of their work. Ethnography can refer to the process of collecting anthropological data, but it is also the written work that results from that study. So you can do ethnography or ethnographic fieldwork, and you can produce an ethnography about a particular group of people. Now then, what is ethnography? Ethnography is like ethnography, but in a sense that we'd look at a social media platform to study human behavior. And since due to COVID-19, I cannot ethically send you out to a physical place to do an ethnography, we will be looking to do an ethnography research project. This will be similar to ethnography. However, instead of a physical place, your site will be a virtual one. You will identify a community, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, or Discord, for example, and then you will engage and immerse yourself into their online culture. You'll identify a research focus, analyze and interpret your findings, and then present those findings into your final reports. But don't worry, this is a process, and each week you will receive an ethnographic assignment designed to help you through this process. But first, let's take a step back and define a few more terms. We are all familiar with the word culture, but for the purposes of this class, we are going to get a little bit more specific. Culture is often considered at the national or population level. It is associated with traditional customs, ideas, and behaviors. They will often have named groups with identifiable territories. For example, French culture, Jewish culture, Navajo culture, etc. Then we have subcultures. Subcultures exist within a larger, complex society. It is a way of life for a group and has an impact on their members' identity 24/7. It can be a dominant group, but sometimes mixed and is influenced by a larger culture. For example, Cajun culture, military culture, or business culture. Then we have microculture, which is what you will be focusing on for your ethnographic studies. Microcultures do not constitute an entire way of life for a group. Typically, they are very local and small scale, although it may be related to larger landscapes of topics or interests. For example, there is a microculture of a courtroom. A local artisan shop has a microculture. Even your families have their own microcultures distinct from the behaviors you have at work, school, or with friends. But even those have their own unique microcultures as well. So like I said earlier, ethnography is about culture and social media. Facebook, for example, would be considered a culture. It reaches millions, if not more people every day. We can look deeper into Facebook to find a subculture as well, such as your local friends list. Not all people know each other that are on your friends list, but they know you from one context to the next, and they are familiar with your social media presence. But it is also a platform for a social media microculture. There are specific pages that belong to specific groups. This one is American Pool Players Association, but more specifically for the Cape Girardeau region. Your task will be to locate a microculture on a social media platform of your choosing to study for the rest of the semester, so make sure it's one that you find interesting. For this week's assignments, you will need to download Microsoft Office desktop applications onto your personal computer. You can find a link in the Writing Expectations section. Watch the Cornell Notes tutorial video and create a Cornell Notes template for use in this course. Then you will use the Cornell Notes template to complete your first ethnographic assignment, Community Identification. In your template, you will need to compile a list of 10 social media platforms. For each of the 10, you will need to identify potential microcultures or social groups nested within those platforms that might be interesting to you. Try not to pick ones you are currently part of, or it will make future assignments more challenging to complete. Then, identify the top 5 of the 10 that seem most interesting to you. Provide 50 to 75 word description for why you chose this microculture, your level of familiarity, and how many people are consistently involved in it. Generally speaking, you don't have to be specific in the number. These assignments, along with the online module and lecture quiz, will be due on Sunday at midnight of this week.